Hey guys, so personal story here. I very recently started to post more on LinkedIn and I've started doing it very consistently. And there's been a few people in my network who really pushed me towards this as I really saw them kill it in terms of personal brand and building an audience and how it helped their business as well. So as a founder, I realized the importance of doing this for myself and getting out of my comfort zone. One of the people in my network who really helped me out was Seymur, founder of Whelp. And I brought him on today to have a bit of a discussion around how he has grown his brand on LinkedIn. And in here, you can see that he has 20K followers. But what's really impressive is that he's actually done that twice over. As he mentions in this video as well, that he originally had 25K followers, but then he got banned, created a new account, and he's back at 20K. So this is someone who's really put in the hard yards and grown on LinkedIn and has really made it a foundation of how he networks and creates a community around him as well. So I think if you're a founder, definitely personal brand is something that you just have to use these days. It's part of the reason why I'm also on YouTube, so that you can see me face to face as well. But without too much further ado, I will jump into this video. But we actually had a very long chat. So I actually split this video into two parts. One part specifically around LinkedIn, and the other part is actually about Seymur's journey as a founder. We have a very short 10-minute video that I'll be uploading pretty soon as well. But anyways, hope you really enjoy it and get some actionable tips on how to use LinkedIn as a founder. Perfect. I think we're recording now. Seymur, thank you so much for joining me today. It's interesting that I think actually that I consider yourself a friend at this point, even though we've never worked together in any official capacity. We've never met in person either. But over I think it's about a year now, we still chat here and there. And you actually inspired me to, grow my presence on LinkedIn, which is kind of what, of course, I want to chat with you today. And of course, hear about your story as a founder and how you've grown on LinkedIn as well. Before all that, would love to hear a little bit about yourself. What are you doing right now? What's keeping you busy?
Brendan, I think that's the power of connectivity, right? We can connect from one part of the world to another part of the world without even seeing or meeting each other in person at this point. And then if it clicks, if it feels right, if you have created value or if you can create value for each other, you can consider yourself a good friend, or you can consider this type of relationship a good friendship. I remember when I reached out to you, and when we started talking, you reached out to me. I noticed that you never tried to sell. You never sold. And I think you are a sales person by nature who doesn't sell, but you create value. And every single time we had an interaction with you, your main question was, how do I create value for you? And I think that comes across so welcoming rather than just pushy, or rather than just, instead of going cold on people, sales professionals like yourself, you see that they care about you, they want to create value, and then connectivity happens, and then you take that relationship, you grow, you build it, right? You build into something else. So my name is Seymur, I'm a founder, and I've been using LinkedIn. I have had phase 2 lives with LinkedIn. At one point, I reached 25,000 followers, but then something happened to my account, and it got deleted or blocked. But then I created another one, and then built it to up to 20,000 followers right now. And I have always focused on LinkedIn specifically on creating value by creating content. And I think that is something we can focus on, creating value by creating content, and which involves, of course, the content creation, engagement. And at the same time, I'm glad that you are on LinkedIn. I do see a lot of more content coming from you, and I'm supporting, celebrating that as much as possible. And I think now you are in the right channel for yourself. Other channels are effective as well. I have team members using Reddit, using X, using other places where they can post, comment, get engaged. But at the same time, I think LinkedIn has an invisible superpower that can open new doors and new opportunities.
So much to talk about here about your growth to 20,000. And definitely thank you so much about the compliment about, being a salesperson that doesn't sell. I guess hone in on the channels bit. Did you experiment on any other channels before you used LinkedIn? Or do you also still kind of dabble into X, maybe a few others like Reddit as well?
I never resonated. I never clicked very well, and I did not associate myself with other channels. Facebook to me was too, with all due respect to Facebook users, with all due respect with users of other channels, Facebook for me was too lousy, right? And I saw a lot of unrelated content to my professional background, and I saw these distractive videos and images and entertainment content, and I was like, that's not where I want my voice to be, right? And then I do have a X or Twitter account, but I think due to the fact that interface is not as intuitive as I would personally like to, I was not finding it very attractive. But my colleagues, my staff, I do have people in the team that are actually generating a quite good amount of leads from Twitter, and they're doing a good job. Reddit is something for a little bit of techie and nerdy, I would say, again, with all due respect, and there's nothing wrong with that. And my team staff, my team members are actually using Reddit to generate leads or generate conversation. But I think LinkedIn has a little bit of visionary component to it, right? And I think if you look at recently I saw a post about 7 types of founders. One of them was solo founder, one of them was disruptor, one of them was visionary. And I think LinkedIn has this flavor, this spirit of vision or being visionary. And I think the more quality content you create, you share, you support, you get involved, you get engaged, that is where you can connect with other visionary people. I always like this, because you are in sales, it says, sell the product to entry-level people, sell the solution to mid-level people, sell the vision to C-level people.
Right. Okay. I really get you. And so yeah, you've really found your audience in there, and you've resonated it. And I think that's been a really good analogy of. I think at the end of the day, if any founder or anyone is getting started on LinkedIn, they should just find a platform to just do something. And like you said, your team uses other platforms as well. So you can be successful in any, but you have really honed in on LinkedIn and grown there as well. So that's really awesome to see. I'm curious, how did it all begin for you? Because for me, it really only started maybe 3 months ago. I saw people like yourself post on LinkedIn all the time, and it always made me feel like, oh, like I should probably do that. I know it's good for business, or I know I can at least do this, or at least I can grow an audience I can leverage in the future. How did it all start for you? Because for me, it's just one post, and then I just committed to doing it every day, mandatory. What about yourself?
So here's what I noticed about LinkedIn and the algorithm. I think audiences started appreciating the fact that authentic content is generated on the spot without planning. When you generate an authentic content, like on the spot, that's how you feel at that moment, with a very raw camera, raw video file, or with a spontaneous image, with unpolished thoughts right under that photo, and how you feel at that moment. I noticed the audiences and the algorithm appreciates that more. That's what I have noticed. The way I started doing it is when I started thinking that, okay, how can I create value by leveraging the knowledge plus experience that I have? Recently, I was watching Kerwin Ray. He's an Australian speaker, and he was giving an example. He was like, you have 2 candidates. One of them has tons of knowledge, and the other one has tons of experience. Which one would you hire if you have to hire one? Most probably you will hire the one with tons of experience, right? And I think LinkedIn rewards you, or the audiences will reward you, if you combine knowledge with experience from a personal perspective, from a personal lenses, right? And I think if you do those 3 things right, personal experience, personal perspective, with the knowledge and experience combined and offered to the audiences with an intention to create value, I think that's when their audiences start appreciating that. That's how I started. I was like, okay, how can I put my knowledge and experience into work and share my perspective so that someone may find it useful, and then they can save time and money and energy on that without making the same mistake or repeating the same fault or going through the same pattern. They could actually do a shortcut.
Of course. And yes, definitely telling a story just helps it be a lot more personable and memorable, I find as well. But it is always hard because for myself, I'm not used to sharing much about myself. A lot of my posts are, very knowledge-based. But what I actually found, I actually only did this analysis recently. I posted a personal story about 3 weeks ago, and that outperformed all my other posts by quite a lot. For me, it's pretty small, but I got 31 followers from that post. And normally I only get 3 to about 10 followers per day. So that 3x my engagement just from that post where I telling a story. I didn't give really much any information. So it's good to see that you've also seen the same thing. One thing I do see, I've spoken to other founders about this as well. And for them, they're worried that what they have to share is such a niche topic, because that maybe they're building something very, very niche for one sort of community. They're saying, how can I share this to my entire audience? For yourself, I know you've also gone into something pretty niche and spoken about your startup previously as well. Is that something you think about, and how do you attract people to that specific content?
In terms of the personal stories and coming to I think here's a skill that every founder should have. Every founder should be able to imagine a dumpling, right? Dumpling has a meat inside, right? And when you make the dumpling, you put the meat inside, and then you bring all the corners together and squeeze them, right? So that the meat doesn't fall off, right? And I think as a founder, you should have the skill to connect those dots, to bring all those pieces together. You can actually share a personal experience or personal story on a niche topic, but you should be able to sort of open it up to the overall public, to general public. I always say it as a sand glass. Think of sand glass. Sand glass it comes large, right? It narrows down, and then it expands up again. So I think you can start all your content by by larger audience, saying that, for example, how do you become a leader? What is leadership to you? So talking about leadership, it's a very large or very wide concept. And then you say, I met this guy. He's a true leader because of these 3 specific attributes or qualities. And then you can say, everybody can become a leader. You don't have to become a manager to be a leader if you implement these things, right? So you start big, you narrow it down, you give few examples, a call to action, and then you expand it again. So I think that could be a good formula to follow when it comes to specifically personal stories to a larger audience, or we want to share something niche. You should be able to connect the dots as well, right? And I think that has resonated very well with me in terms of my experience, where I had a specific niche experience. But as a founder, once you are able to do the storytelling from a bigger picture perspective, narrow it down to a single dot, and then again grow it to the larger audience, that's where you can cover more audiences.
I like the framework. Do you think about your writing techniques and frameworks while you're making the post at all? Or do you just kind of wing it, like you said, spontaneous? Or how much planning really goes into the writing of it?
So there are 2 types of planning, right? Invisible planning and then visible planning. So invisible planning is that when you walk around the city, when you actually are in the office, or you are in a customer sales meeting, right? When you are presenting something, when you're meeting with customers, when you're working on the product, when you're working on your pitch deck. This is the invisible planning, invisible preparation. An idea comes up instantly, and you take a note of that, saying, okay, this could be a really good content for later, because you felt good about it. I take all the time a lot of notes. I either write it down like old school, pen and paper, or I actually take a note to my social messengers, save to myself, right? And that's the invisible part of the planning. Visible part of the planning is that I actually sound the way I would love to read it myself, right? It's very quick, to the point. I don't go into a lecture. I dive into the right topic. I say, here are 3 things really inspired me this week on this guy, and I make it specific, right? And then there's a picture of that guy, and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, and then everything I add is this call to action. I really like Malcolm Lewis. Malcolm Lewis, if you can tag him on this, Malcolm Lewis is a pitch deck coach. Malcolm Lewis has a pitch deck coach template where he helps founders to craft their pitch decks. What I like about Malcolm is that every slide that he has a full sentence statement. Instead of saying problem on a pitch deck, he identifies the problem. For example, says the AI market is broken. So that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the full statement. Instead of saying traction, he says we have grown 20% year over year. So that's a
Yeah.
statement instead of like keyword, right? And I think when you have that type of approach to content, like content creation, instead of having a introduction, you can say, this is where it went bad. This is
Yeah.
where it went bad is immediately dragging attention, like, okay, what went bad? What was wrong? Instead of saying introduction or instead of conclusion, here's what you can learn, right? That's something that puts me on the hook or grabs my attention right away.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So you've kind of just summarized. You kind of write the way you want to read things as well, short, sweet, and of course, you always try to think about the perspective of capturing the attention within. I guess you kind of get rid of the fluff words that you don't want to just put words that are meaningless just to have an introduction.
I think that's where we have moved already. Like audiences really enjoyed. You're not writing a novel. That novel likes descriptive language, yes. So novel, if you start a novel, it says it was a beautiful sunny day where you could feel the breeze on your face and then the water on your feet where the grass was green. That's beautiful. That's a novel. But on LinkedIn, I think people are scrolling most of them on their phone, right? Or on the tablets. And if you target your audience for a quick biteable, digestible, bite-sized content, they can easily digest it in a couple scrolls, one or scroll. Josh Brown is another, I think you know him, is another really great content creator on LinkedIn that I really like his content. And actually, another type of content I have noticed with Josh is that he gets the audience engaged saying that, which employee would you hire? Here's a case, employee one, employee two, which one would you hire? And then he explains you would hire first one because so which one would you hire is a question that gets you engaged into conversation right away. And you're like, which one would I hire, right? It's a question
Yeah.
addressed to you as if it's a conversation. And I
Yes.
always say in my pitch workshops, when I work with aspiring founders in the pitch preparation workshops, I always say conversational pitches are the winning presentations.
Agreed. Agreed. That's very interesting to hear as well, because of course I know you've pitched as well. Maybe let's move away from the LinkedIn post because you've given us a lot of actionable advice there. But how has growing on LinkedIn helped you as a founder, and has it helped you in raising your rounds as well?
That's a great question. I think every founder should hear this answer, and from me and from other entrepreneurs or founders, and your perspective as well. So I think what LinkedIn does, LinkedIn lays the groundwork for you, right? It does not necessarily, to me at least, right? There are other founders who are doing a great job by generating lead or generating awareness. For what LinkedIn has done for me, LinkedIn has actually laid the groundwork for me, prepared the foundations for my sales meeting. When I reach out to people and I say, hey, I would love to have a meeting with you, they immediately say, oh yeah, I have seen you on LinkedIn. I've been following your content. I love your content. Yeah, when would you like to meet? And what's the topic? It is a very good conversation opener. I don't have to do a cold reach out anymore. I say, because they have seen my content. But again, I have done a prior work to that, right? I've followed that guy. I have engaged in his conversation. I have supported his content. I have asked thought-provoking questions. I have replied or commented. I have somehow invited them into my conversation. And after that, after you organically build that relationship, you reach out, you say, may I have a cup of coffee with you to discuss this? And then the guy says, oh, I know him. Oh, yeah, I know you. I've been seeing you around. Yeah, sure. What time is good for you? Right. So LinkedIn has definitely helped me to knock on the doors and open them, not only knock on, open them specifically for business sales, business networking, and professional growth opportunities. And I think LinkedIn has been a great icebreaker. Every time I go to a meeting, they're like, oh, I recently saw your content. Oh, you're constantly posting and sharing. And here's another approach I have taken in LinkedIn. If you look at all the posts that I make or I share, I am rarely the hero of the story, right?
Mm.
And I am in LinkedIn content, I take the mission that we have at Wealth. The mission at Wealth is elevate your customers and elevate the person in front of you, right? And I always make them the hero. Craig Valentine is a great public speaker, and the audiences who are watching us or listening to us, they should definitely follow Craig Valentine. I think he's 1998 world public speaking champion. He's a wonderful guy. And he always says that never be the hero of your story. Make someone else the hero of your story, but you are the delivery guy.
Yeah.
When someone else is the hero of your story and you're the delivery guy, the audiences cherish you enough and your content. But you elevate someone else, and then audiences celebrates that.
That's a good point. I'm gonna take that and steal that from now on. Now maybe you'll see a post from me making someone else a hero. But that's interesting saying that. Do you intentionally plan on the people you connect with and try to bring into your conversation? Like, do you maybe like add a few people that like, hey, I'm interested in this space, I'm gonna just add them and see where this goes? Or how intentional is your growth or anything like that?
It is intentional in a way that I really follow and get engaged and start planning something on the content that I personally like or enjoy consuming, right? There are certain types of content creators on LinkedIn that I like their style, right? For example, it's just like a stand-up comedy. Here's a stand-up comedy example, right? There's Russell Peters, there's Louis C.K., there is, I don't know, I think his name is Isma from the Finnish guy. So there are type of stand-up comedians, right? The stand-up comedian I like is the one who never insults the audience or doesn't pick up on someone individually, right?
Yeah.
For example, what was Dave Chappelle? Dave Chappelle insults the audiences, but he doesn't pick up on an individual. He doesn't say, what's your name? Where are you from? And starts insulting. So I like Louis C.K., I like Dave Chappelle, I like Isma because they can actually make us laugh without insulting a single out an individual, right?
Yeah.
So, and it comes to that's their style, and I prefer that type of style. The same goes for the LinkedIn content creator. There are certain LinkedIn content creators that I like their style. I love their style, right? When you look at their content, you see that, oh, it's specific, to the point, it has some humor, it never insults anyone, it elevates people, it creates valuable content, that type of stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I want to consume that type of content. And what you consume inspires you to create something similar. So I go in that similar path as well. I don't insult anyone. We have a nice saying in my country, in Azerbaijan. Saying is that if you're about to take a bad word into your mouth to insult anyone, you better kill it in your gut before you speak it up, right? So, or in English, it says either say something nice or shut up. So that is my approach in LinkedIn, that either I will say something nice or I shut up. And I actually like something I learned from Josh Brown. He says, ask 3 questions before you comment. Are you the right person to comment on this? Is this the right time?
Yeah.
And do you have the domain expertise? If you don't, why are you getting involved or engaged? You can inquire information without insulting, but if you're gonna share a thought or agree or disagree, is this the right time or right place? Are you the right person? Do you have domain expertise? Right. So
it sounds like you've curated your, I guess, learning in some ways, or at least where you get inspiration from. I do something similar, and I actually have like a whole sticky board of like, every time I see someone post something interesting, I just like screenshot it, put it there, and I'll read it later to see if I can get up any information.
Yeah.
Is that something similar that you do as well? Do you get inspiration, or is it really, like sometimes you're just super inspired in the moment and you make a post right there and then? Or do you also like collect something and then just take all your notes down somewhere as well?
Wonderful point. And I think you're doing something exciting in terms of collecting, because it gives you a very good library. But the trick is to go back to that library and check those things, not just forget them, right? I had friends who came to Dubai when I used to live in Dubai, and they would take a picture of the fountains or videos of the fountains, which they would never open and watch it, right? Like, then I was like, hey, just enjoy it. Like, put the iPad down, enjoy it, feel that water on your face, and go and tell them that story instead of just holding your iPad in front of you and watching the fountains through iPad. What's the point? There are so many better versions on YouTube. They did 4K 10 times better than you. Just go watch them instead of that. But now here, enjoy it. So there is some sort of content that I do collect, actually. I do collect. But the trick is to go back to them, right? And then another thing is that if I see a very useful quote or something, I take a note of that. Other thing I intentionally do when I actually watch a podcast, I will not just watch or listen to it. I will actually, like I watch Netflix episode. I sit down in front of the podcast with pen and paper in front of me, in my hands, and I actually take a lot of. I stop and take a note. Stop, take a note, and I see and I take a note that potato story, for example, right? Potato story is marketing example. How the king in France wanted potato, to be distributed to people, but people didn't like it. They didn't like the shape, and he was like, okay, we're gonna announce potato as a royal vegetable, and he actually put guards around the potato fields, but told the guards, don't guard it too strongly, let people steal. And people were stealing because it was a royal vegetable and it was protected or guarded, right?
Yeah.
And then that's how potato gained popularity. So
Wow.
this is a story I took a note. Another story quickly I was watching, and I will definitely use it as a content, is that Jeep Wrangler sales started going down after they changed the headlights. They changed the headlights from round to square, and the sales went down. They could not figure out why. So they invited this amazing, world famous marketing guy. He comes and he says, you changed the headlights, right? Recently, they say, yeah. He says, that's why. Because now Jeep Wrangler looks like a car. Before it used to look like a horse. And that's what they were saying. For Americans who love the wild nature, Jeep Wrangler was a better horse for them. Now it looks like a car, and they don't want to take a car to the wild nature. And Jeep Wrangler switched back to the round headlights, and the sales went up. So this story is good for me in terms of sales marketing content, right? I will use it as a fragment in my sales presentation next time.
Yeah, very interesting. Have you seen, and I love the way you've kept the inspiration. The active listening, super tough, because of course takes a bit more effort as well, but definitely helps you remember things more. Have you seen any other benefits from your LinkedIn posting as well? Like I know a friend who uses LinkedIn and Twitter to hire people as well, because they say they meet so many interesting people that way, and sometimes they put a job post and they go hire, and they say because of that, people are attracted to the brand as well. Like because they've built the foundation. Have you anything else that you can think of for that where you're like, oh, I got this sort of benefit that I didn't expect?
I'll give you 3 examples. I used LinkedIn for hiring recently. What I did, I said, don't send me resumes. Instead, send me a 58 or 59-second video on YouTube unlisted telling why do you think you could do this job or what inspires to do this job, right? And instead of getting a lot of CVs and going through that, actually those who really wanted the job, they took time to record themselves and upload it to YouTube, make it unlisted, and share the link with me. That was the first filter for me to filter out the lazy ones, right? So those who were not lazy actually did the job. And then what they did with a short 58, 59-second video, I was able to see them. I was able to see how they are putting their thoughts together. I was able to see their gestures and mimics and their facial expressions. At the same time, it gave me a chance to see how they're organizing their thoughts and their speaking skills, as well as their language skills, right? So with a 50-second video, I checked so many boxes that I didn't have to do the interview. And then from the video, I was like, okay, that's the guy that I want to hire. I sent him emails saying that, when do you think you can start? So LinkedIn helped me with that. And the second thing LinkedIn helped me with, it was that I was coming from Houston to Baku in February, and I reached out to LinkedIn and I said, I'm coming to Baku. I want to do a networking event. Sign up. And I was expecting about 60 people. 520 people showed up.
Wow.
I was expecting 60. 520 people showed up. And I was like, oh my God, that is just incredible. And then from that, I actually used that opportunity to start a mentorship session one-on-one. And on the first 10 minutes, I sold about 20 spots.
Wow, very cool.
Because I know that there are 520 people coming. And actually now I have an idea. I'm actually flirting with this idea. I'm flirting with this idea. I'm talking to the top guys. I'm doing this very, very, very early stage survey and research. I want to open a bank specific for LinkedIn users, so that it's not a bank for them to do the banking operations, but it's a bank that will help them feel the belonging to the community.
Yeah.
Right. And again, this is just an idea. I'm flirting with the idea that how can I create a community, and then people who follow me, who like my content, who enjoy, they will become part of that bank. And a movie called Bank of Dave actually inspired me. I highly recommend that you see that movie. It's a very entrepreneurial, inspirational movie. It's called Bank of Dave. It's an everyday Joe decides to open a bank in the UK, and the UK financial regulation says in the last 150 years, no one has opened a bank. There was no new bank in the 150 years. He said, well, I'm going to do it now. And so I would say creating community and then being part of it on LinkedIn is very possible. It's very much possible if you do the right content. So I've used that LinkedIn for those reasons, for those purposes as well.
Yeah, I really like that one. That's very inspiring. I flirted with the idea of hosting events down the line as well, because just bringing people together. Because I think a lot of people forget that, yes, everything is virtual and online, and you're talking to people in this, like this glass screen in front of you every day. But it's very possible when you have enough connections and people know you well enough that you can bring that into the real world and make those genuine connections as well. And I think that's so strong, because I think what I've really noticed, and one of the biggest reasons I started on LinkedIn, is because connections get you so much further. It really is just, it makes you feel better about even working, because it is a lonely thing. And it's just the people I meet online have really changed the trajectory of some of my growth as well. So doing that event, has that already happened? You've really done the event? How was hosting 520 people?
Yes. So connecting with them on LinkedIn, and then the problem with that is that you do not recognize everyone, and they recognize you. They say, hey, we're connected. You're like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, thanks for coming. Because, I mean, you can't remember 520 people. But then after that, they go and they say, oh, we connect on LinkedIn. We met here. And then someone comes on the city and says, hey, you remember we're connected on LinkedIn? I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks, man. Let's just, stay connected. Because you can't recognize everyone. But at the same time, it's a very good conversation opener. You're like, hey, we follow each other on LinkedIn. I'm like, Josh Brown recently posted something from Grand Canyon, where he met one of his followers. His followers, I think, reached out to him and said, hey, I follow you. And they start chatting. He posts a picture. Like a small world, right? It's a very interesting, what do you call it? But at the same time, it gives you a very good feeling of reward. And I think as a content creator, you have responsibility to appreciate the people who engage in your conversations. And I really want to mention this, that people want four things. People want, audiences generally, people want to be heard, to be seen, to be remembered, and to be rewarded.
Yeah.
Right. So I think when it comes to your content creation, that's how you can elevate others. You can help them get heard. You can help them get seen. You can help them get remembered by tagging them or getting them into content. And then you can help them get rewarded. And I think simple thank you on tagging, saying that, hey, I appreciate your hard work, or I think that's a very good reward for many of audiences.
Yeah, I love that one. And yes, it can definitely get weird if they recognize you. So you're almost like a micro celebrity. You strike me as a pretty extroverted guy, so I'm sure you handle those moments pretty well.
I think I am on my way to become an introvert, because I used to be an extrovert and I'm now an ambivert, and I'm on my way to an introvert. My friends call me that you're getting old. Don't just find a fancy name for that. You're just getting old. And I think I turned 40 this year, and I used to be an extrovert and I'm now ambivert. I'm more of extrovert in the right audiences, but I'm quiet and spending time a lot on my own, and loneliness kicks in definitely. LinkedIn can help a little bit, but the good thing about LinkedIn is that it's not like Instagram. You open Instagram and you envy all these people, like they're all on vacation. Everyone looks so healthy and jacked, and they're like all this bulky and all that stuff, and you're like, oh my god, I'm here eating pizza on my stomach watching. You hate yourself. But LinkedIn is not like that. LinkedIn is very encouraging, supportive platform. That is where you can resonate with many and then share your story up and downs. But I would say, yeah, that definitely helps a lot. But I'm on my way to introvert, yeah, which I'm fine. I'm enjoying the silence.